What's up guys, bourbon-based barbells. Last week I did a video, accidentally deleted it. I did the fresh crack of the top floor bottle. Quick cliff notes from it. I had decided that it was a pretty even pour with the Blantons for a much cheaper price. Since I can't go back in time and uncrack this, we are going to do what I'm gonna call a heavy barrel. And what we do with a heavy barrel is we're gonna open another bottle. So I'm going to do the top floor today. I'm gonna do the single barrel, and then I'm gonna compare it to our good friend Blantons here. Just to kind of check them all together and see if they do line up the way I think they might, since they're all in the same mash bill. So let's go ahead, get our fresh crack of this single barrel. Good old twist tops. We're gonna close it back up because I wanna go back to the top floor first. Pour this top floor and we'll get started. So right away, beautiful nose on the thing. You know, these things run like 13, 14 bucks if you can get them. Unfortunately here in Colorado, you cannot. Very just straightforward bourbon. Lots of vanilla on the nose. Got that fresh fruit note, that almost grape that you get from Buffalo Trace. It's pretty good. I mean, bottom shelf, it's pretty good. It's very, very approachable. Very soft edges on it. It's something that you could just hand out to people, and you could quite frankly tell them it was Blantons and they probably wouldn't know. Just very straightforward. Vanilla, oak, definitely more of that cherry in the VOC. Finish is very short. At 86 proof, not a lot of burn coming down here. So I'm not getting a lot of harshness. Again, very, very approachable bourbon. I mean, it's solid for what it is. It's a shame that this doesn't sit on shelves up here in Colorado. This is definitely one of those ones that you'd want to keep around, and if you had friends over, go ahead and use. I know that the regular benchmark is absolutely fantastic when you kind of make milkshakes. If you're making an adult milkshake, benchmark is the way to go. I don't know if you'd want to use something like this. I mean, again, it is a bottom shelf offering, which is ironic because it does say top floor, but at 86 proof, this guy's fantastic. Let's go ahead and move on to our benchmark single barrel. This will be the first time I've tried this, so I'll be a little bit more in depth, or try to be. And again, cheaper bourbon. And then that really young color that you get isn't a bad thing, right? Like, should be at least 4 years old, I'd assume. You get what you get at under 20 bucks, right? So definitely a lot more character here. I would copy and paste my notes from this top floor, but I would say it's very much oakier. So if you like that oak flavor, you're gonna definitely get hand delivered exactly that here. Back of the palate, I'm getting a lot more cherry, a lot more vanilla. Again, just classic bourbon notes here. Oaky, but not so much where the tannins are overwhelming and you kind of get almost that bitter beer face from it. Very approachable. The finish as it's finishing now, a lot more of those fresh fruit notes are coming through. I'm tasting, like on the roof of my mouth, there's a lot of cherry, grape, Buffalo Trace, and then almost like like pears. So a lot of that fresh fruit kind of flavor. All right, on that third sip, the oak kind of takes over the flavor, but again, it's not in any way, it's not overbearing at all. It's a very nice kind of flavor to it. It almost adds to the finish a little bit, so you get a little bit of that like drying kind of oak, but it's not so drying where you're like, oh, I'm thirsty, or like I said before, where you have that bitter beer face. It's a really subtle, nice finish. Gotta be honest, you know, drinking these two back to back, the top floor and then drinking the single barrel, I would say that the top floor, honestly, a little bit more approachable. It's a very good starter bourbon. I think if you are a lot more attuned to bourbon, this might be the go-to out of the two. I know that there have been a lot of reviews that say this is just as good as the Blantons. I don't know. Honestly, I think the top floor might be a little bit more closer to the profiles, because I don't get as much oak off of a Blantons, but it is a lot closer in proof considering Blantons is 93 and this is 95. Again, it's single barrel. I did a video on that. You can go check that out. Like, single barrel, every barrel is going to be a little bit different. So I don't know, man. Like, I hear people saying that it tastes like Blantons. Let's find out. I don't think so. I think top floor might be a little bit closer. Let's get our third pour in here. That's horsey. Another thing that's worth noting, I'm not a Blantons guy, but this bottle has been the most exceptional bottle of single barrel Blantons I've ever gotten. So that being said, there is a very high bar to meet here. Love that all my glasses have my fingerprints all over them. Just kind of almost gross. You know, you hold them up together, very similar color. Off the nose, you can just tell it's a little bit more premium. Those notes of the vanilla, the oak, the caramel, they're really coming off of the glass a lot more. Always that grape note, that nice touch of cherry there. I know what this one finishes like, so I'm kind of excited to drink it, but again, we'll see. So on that first sip, the oak kind of came up. Now, just had 2 other pours. A lot of times notes will come out that you weren't expecting when you're going through the pours. The finish on this, again, this is one of the more exceptional bottles I've ever gotten. It has this really milk chocolate finish to it. This has been my favorite Blantons bottle. I almost want to go to my local and ask her if she can dig through and I can find this exact same bottle, because this is, you know, the bottle number doesn't really matter. This was bottled 100, but this was bottled, if you're curious, Warehouse H, of course, April 30th, 2024. This is from barrel number 916 from Rick 106. And I don't know what was going on in the plant that day with this barrel, but it has been exceptional. As I'm kind of looking at these, it's superior in every way, which it should be, right? Like, this is a $60 bottle of bourbon that sometimes can go for up to 150 bucks. Meanwhile, you got your single barrel sitting there at under 20. You got your top floor sitting there at under 20. If I can't find this, does it make sense that I can't find those to go reach out for these? Absolutely. If you live up here in Colorado like I do, you're not gonna find these bottles. So we get another sip here. It's perfect. I hate saying it. I have poo-pooed on Blantons a lot. There's a video that I have on here where I dump out a bottle, not a real bottle, because I've had some bad bottles of Blantons. When you get into the single barrel game, there is a high chance that you're gonna get a barrel that's, quite frankly, maybe not so good. This one is fantastic. It is probably the worst one to compare these two. I'm gonna work my way back, starting off with a single barrel benchmark. And again, anytime you have a superior bourbon and then you follow it up with something else, you catch all the flaws. Something that I didn't catch the first time around, because I did start off with a lower proof and then work my way to a cheaper bourbon and then to a premium. The first thing that kind of stands out is I can taste the ethanol. I can taste that really alcohol flavor from it. Whereas the Blantons is a lot more refined, I taste the alcohol here. Now I'm not tasting the oak. Go for another sip. Now that it's kind of like evened out, very solid. Again, it is a solid pickup for under 20 bucks. Would definitely look for this if you can. I want to get over to this top floor. Oh, the nose changed. So a lot of dark cherry now coming off of the nose. I just had Marciano cherries yesterday because I did a bourbon amaretto sour, which was fantastic, by the way. Trying to dial in the recipe just right, but it very much smells like those cherries. It's just, oh gosh, cherry lover's dream right here. And a nice little blast of cherry there as well. I gotta be honest, I'm gonna say it again. I think that this top floor is actually better than the single barrel. I wanna kind of match it up against this Blantons one-on-one. We'll put this single barrel over here so I don't have to look at it anymore. I think it is probably the more superior out of the two. Very controversial, I'm sure, especially for someone like me. I'm a high proof person. Like, I love anything that's over 107. You get me at 107 and above, with the exception of like full proof Weller, which I'm not a fan of. I like the high proofs. Like, anything that's jumping up into that hazmat area. Obviously the hazmat has to taste under its proof, which is kind of ironic with most bourbon guys. They're like, I want it to be 140 proof, but I want it to drink like it's 107. It's like, man, settle down. So let's try these two side by side. But I did want to put that out there that, hey, I'm a big proof bourbon guy, so for me to go for an 86er and say, yeah, this is the one, very off character. So much, it's just so milky and chocolatey. This Blantons is probably one of the better ones that I've ever had. I know it sounds like I'm overselling this, like I'm trying to oversell this. I promise you, I am not trying to oversell this. This bottle has been great. I had a store pick that was trash. Bottle that is in the bottle dump on video is the same bottle that was that particular pick. And ooh, it was awful. And then I've had Blantons picks where it was like, I've had Blantons picks that were just okay. And then I've had Blanton bottles that are just okay. I went into this thinking I probably got another bad bottle of Blantons, and it shocked me. So can't say enough about it. I realize I'm overplaying it. Let's move back over to the top floor. That was the last sip. Tons of cherry notes. I'm telling you, I think if you are at a crossroads and you have $20 in your pocket for whatever reason, get a job. I'm kidding. I'm unemployed right now, by the way. And it's not from the bourbon drinking, because this is usually all I'll drink in one day. Get the top floor. Like, if you're at a crossroads where I can only grab one bottle, maybe your wife is like, if you bring home 2 bottles, I'm gonna wring your neck. And these 2 bottles are sitting in your face. I feel as though the top floor one is going to be a lot better. Considering it's from the top floor, considering that they're probably mixing a bunch of barrels together to get this profile, I feel like this is going to be a heck of a lot more consistent than the single barrel, because like I just said with the Blantons, you can crack open a single barrel bottle and find out very, very quickly you got a bad barrel. And then you can find out very quickly if you got a good one. So I'm not saying that every single person who's ever gotten a single barrel of Benchmark has gotten the barrel, but I would say that the top floor, I bet you this is going to be a heck of a lot more consistent. It's going to be a lot more approachable, and I bet you if you gave this to a discerning whiskey drinker, let's not say bourbon drinker because a bourbon drinker might scoff at it, but if you gave it to somebody who was well versed in whiskey and they turned their nose up at this thing, I don't know what to say about that person. I've had a lot of bourbons. This one's pretty good for 86 proof, especially concerning, you know, the other 2 bottles that I put it up against. So that's all I got. That's your Fresh Crack Friday. It's also a heavy barrel day. Heavy barrel! Have a good one, guys.